Mindy Vail, welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you so much, John. Thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you. You're joining us from Portland, Oregon area. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about creating a supportive environment for organizational change. Super important topic because change is ubiquitous these days. Like every organization has to figure out how to overcome change fatigue and to constantly pivot and be adaptive. Gone are the days where you could have like kind of a change initiative once in a while and kind of gear people up for it. Now it's kind of more of a constant state. And so trying to create an environment where that can happen and flourish and where people can actually lean into it is certainly a challenge. As we get started, I wanted to share Mindy's bio with everybody. Mindy Vail has more than 2 decades of experience in leadership development, change management, education, and public speaking, working with emerging leaders to veteran executives. Her focus is cultivating a growth mindset and fostering resilience. Her book, The Mindshift Effect, where change management is redefined and leadership is defined, provides a wellspring of inspiration for leading meaningful organizational change. I love that. I love the title. Anything you would like to highlight by way of your background or personal context before we dive on it?
Yeah, thanks for the great introduction. I appreciate that. For me, it's just been a very unpredictable journey, as many people are finding theirs to be as well. So I feel like I connect with a lot of people out there who have taken a very unorthodox approach to their career. I've changed careers, changed industries, changed positions, and you kind of have to be a chameleon at times to
Yeah.
adjust to the next thing. And so change is, like you said, just a part of our world today. And so we can embrace that, but we've got to have the tools to do it. So that's why we're here.
Yep, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. I think the days of kind of a linear progression, climb the career, go get to an organization, climb the career ladder, maybe switch organizations a couple times along the way. Those days are long gone
They
for
are.
most people.
They are.
And people are having to zigzag, right? And pivot and make lateral changes and total industry shifts and total
Mhm.
career shifts. And even just the background, the educational background and the training background that it takes to move into certain careers. So many people follow very non-traditional paths to get to where they're going. And in the modern world of work is all about skills, right? And
Yeah.
it's less about pedigree. It's less about, what degree did you get in the past or what school did you go to, at least for most
Yeah,
progressive, forward-looking organizations that
I would
don't get
agree.
caught up on those things. And in that environment, though, it just means what a great opportunity to have talent from across the spectrum, like all sorts of people from all sorts of backgrounds. But the challenge is how do you map that? How do you understand that, right? So,
Right.
anyways, so when we
Right.
talk about change, we're talking about individual level, like career and professional change. We're talking about organizational level and team change and those sorts of things. And then, of course, right now, I mean, it's an interesting time in the world, an interesting time in society. There's a lot of polarization, a lot of conflict, a lot of um, complexity around just how we interact day to day in our communities. And so,
Mhm.
man, change is all around us, and I look forward to digging in around this mindset shift, kind of approach to exploring change. So let's go ahead and start with your book. I always like to ask authors, like, why this book? Why now? What is it, that you just felt like you had to get it out there and make this contribution at this time?
So writing this book was not intentional. I started it by just journaling some thoughts because I had just left a company that I was with for about 10 years. I had left as a VP of Culture and Employee Engagement, where I oversaw HR training and communications. I
Fun job.
loved the place where I worked. I loved the people I worked with. It was kind of like the best situation, and I didn't take it for granted. Every day I enjoyed going to work.
Mm,
And then
awesome.
we had a major layoff,
Hmm.
and it came as a surprise to how many people were laid off.
Mm,
And I was part of that. And after that initial hit, it was a crap, what am I going to do now?
mm,
Am I going to go back to corporate franchise education? what my past was in, or am I going to try to work for myself? And I started just writing. And the book kind of came as writing down what I knew and what I loved and what my passions were, really trying to find that next path. And as I'm writing, I'm like, I'm actually writing a book. I'm writing about all the things I love, all the things that I wake up to do and inspire other people to do. And that really is about embracing change as a part of life and being able to adjust and pivot on the fly. And then it's also about leadership and being aware of our own strengths, our own weaknesses, our own gaps, and using those to lead change. Because the
Mhm.
two are really like intertwined. You can't have great leaders if they don't know how to navigate change.
Mhm.
And you can't navigate change without great leaders. And so when we put those two together, as I started writing, I'm like, this is what I live for. I just geek out on this stuff. And it became kind of this just passion project that then catapulted me into I can do this. This is what I know.
Nice.
This is my wheelhouse. Here I go. And so a year and a half later, I'm my own consultant. I'm my own business. I work for myself, first time ever in my life. And I love it.
Which is scary, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, it's terrifying.
yeah,
It's
I mean,
terrifying.
it's all on you.
Yes. 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 And I've had many days where I've doubted my decision. But more days than not, I'm really thankful that I took the plunge and embraced the change.
Yeah, awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you were in an amazing position. When I think about like, now I don't really want to go corporate, but like if I went corporate, what you were that position you were in is exactly what I would want to do.
100%. It was heaven. I loved
Mhm.
it so much.
Yeah, but yeah, things just shift under
Yeah.
our feet, and you can't always predict it, and
Nope.
oftentimes not at all. And it's hard. Like 10 years at this organization, high level executive, but you're caught up just like so many others in these layoffs, and again, it's kind of like this shifting psychological contract of work. It used to be, I do think we romanticized it a bit. So it's not
We do.
really, to the full extent that sometimes how we frame it. But I mean, it really did used to be like you would go work for an organization, there'd be opportunities for progression and advancement. There's commitment from the employee to the employer, from the employer to the employee. But again, those days are largely gone. Now, it was never that idyllic, right? But certainly now, organizations are doing what they need to survive,
Right.
and that means, layoffs, which are super painful, and there's so much. I mean, it's not just painful for you and all your colleagues that got laid off, but for
Yeah.
the whole organization and everyone who stays behind, and there's trauma there, and so it's very messy,
Yeah.
but that's the reality. Like that's like
It
I
is.
go into an organization, and I just have the assumption I'm going to be as committed as I can be. I'm going to be try to drive change as much as I can, have a great experience as much as I can, and I'm going to try to be committed to the organization. But I also have to recognize that there's no reciprocal commitment. Like,
Right.
and so it has to be, more like I have to just take proactive account for my own career and my own development. And so whether someone in the audience is thinking, oh, maybe I'll hang up my own shingle and do my own thing and get out of the
Right.
corporate grind, or maybe I'll just start a side hustle or whatever. But it's always just important to recognize that kind of security, even if it was just perceived security, isn't really there. And so, we have to take ownership over ourselves, our careers, and how we're going to provide for ourselves and our families and develop. And anyways, I say all of that
Well,
just
yeah,
as
and you're absolutely right. And everything you're saying resonates so deeply with me because for 17 years, the first part of my career, I was a high school English teacher.
mm,
And you have that consistent paycheck, whether it's good paycheck or not, it doesn't matter. It's a consistent paycheck, right? And humans love consistency.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so I had that routine and I knew what was coming. I had predictability in my life. And then moving into the corporate franchise world, I had a consistent paycheck. I knew where it was coming. I knew how much it was. I knew I could pay my bills. And now it's like, whew, I don't know where my next client's coming from. And I've got to really work and get out there and really bust, you know, to get that. And yeah, it is scary. But what I've found working with other leaders as well is we can either have a victim mentality of,
Yeah.
oh, whoa, this has happened to me and now I'm helpless, or we can have that, I'm going to go get it. And I am going to just attack it from every side I can and make it work, whatever that looks like. I may have to get really creative, but I'm going to make it work.
Yeah, so I can't remember who said it once, but I was talking with someone earlier. I was just a young kid. I was just kind of a young adult, and someone was talking about this facade of stability and security. Like, I mean, we're human. Like we want that.
Right. We
Every
do.
human wants that. And a lot of times we have it, at least to a certain extent.
Mhm.
But it is a bit of a facade because things could change right, the ground could shift right from underneath us at any given point in time. We could have a major life tragedy. Like there's all sorts of things that could change. And so, you know, this gentleman said something to the effect of really what you just said. Like, while it's scary, also all of a sudden when you realize you don't actually know what the future holds, and you lean into like taking ownership over yourself, like all of a sudden anything becomes possible. So scared, yes. But like optimistic about an unknown future that's uncertain. We could get locked down in the scared, fight or flight kind of response that we can have, or we can lean into it and just think about, look at all the possibilities out there in front of me, and I can again wake up every morning excited about what my day has to bring because I get to go chase it down, and that is a fun, exciting thing, even if a little terrifying at times.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what is the number one driver of resistance to change? Fear.
Yeah.
The number one. And when we as like leaders of teams of organizations can identify where's the fear coming from when we have these big changes happen, then we can actually act on it. When we ignore that fear is driving this behavior, we're not going to get anywhere with it.
Yeah.
Fear is so powerful.
Yeah. And let's talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah.
So there's a variety of reasons why change initiatives fail, why causes to resistance to change and such. Fear, of course, being a huge part, and it's just hardwired in our brains, right?
Mhm.
Our
Yeah, it is.
evolutionary
Yeah.
psychology. But we're not destined to like be victim to it. Like we can foster a growth mindset. We can kind of rewire even the synapses in our brain so that we can lean into change more without having that immediate fear response all the
Mhm.
time. But we've all been there. We've been in organizations where either maybe we're tasked with driving a change initiative, or we're part of the change. We're one of the many who are part of the change initiative, and resistance happens. And in fact, many leaders often maybe in their mind, in their attempts to like maintain stability, to keep morale up, to whatever, like they maintaining the status quo and stability and structure is kind of their thing, and that's what they do.
Right.
How do you start to work your way through that when fear is so naturally embedded in all of us as humans, and when you're, especially with a large organization, you're dealing with organizational inertia and all of the policies, practices, and procedures that were set up in a certain way to help be self-replicating and sustaining, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole
Yeah.
reason they're there.
That's
And
right.
now you're trying to shift something. How do you start to work with clients to go about doing that?
I would start with three questions. This is where I always go. Number one, why is the change happening? And if you can't define that, that's your number one issue. You've got to be able to articulate that to the masses, whatever messaging you need to whatever audience it is that you're delivering that message to. Why is the change happening? The second one is, what does it mean? What does it mean for you and your job and your role that you're currently in? Because that's a lot of the fear that
Yep.
exists, right? Of what does this mean for me? What's in it for me? But what does this mean for me? Does this mean I might lose my job? Does this mean that somebody else is going to take some of my responsibilities? Does this mean that I have to take on more? And so there's all those questions floating around what does it mean? And then what does it mean for the organization? What's it going to look like? And then the third question is what it doesn't mean. What does
Yeah.
it not mean? How can we eliminate those fear-based questions of in the future, we're not going to see this, this, and this. So just put that to the side, relax. It does not mean this. So why is it happening? What does it mean? And what does it not mean? And when you can start with those three questions, I think it alleviates a lot of stress of the employees that you're working with. Of okay, I understand the foundation of this change.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And communication is really key here,
Yes.
right?
The
And
messaging is critical,
the
right?
messaging around
Early, often, more than you think.
always more than you think, usually
Yes.
much more than you think.
Yes.
And
Yeah, and we're caught in it, right? Because we've been involved in it, and
yeah,
we forget that other people it's their first time hearing or seeing it. And so we're like, well, I don't understand why, you know, they don't get it or why they're so up in arms about it. Well, this is the first time hearing it.
yep.
It's scary for them.
Yeah. So there's that. And there's also just none of this happens in a vacuum, right? All
No.
of this is happening within the current context, the current culture,
Yep.
and the current, like the recent history. So maybe you kind of flubbed things last time. Guess what?
Mm.
That eroded trust. Now you're
And
gonna
that
have to work.
happens a lot, right?
You're gonna have to work extra hard to
That's right.
rebuild that trust, and you can't just take for granted, that, well, I said so, people should believe me. Like I'm an honest person.
Uh-huh.
Why would people doubt what I'm saying? Like it's not even so much about you, like an XYZ leader, whoever it is, it's not even necessarily about that person, but it's about the organization as a whole. It's about the culture. It's about do you walk the walk, or are you just saying stuff and then people see it play out differently? And all of, like, people aren't stupid, and they track that stuff, and they see what's happening, and they fill in the gaps. So like if you're not communicating early, often, way more than you think you need, guess what?
They will
The
create their own narrative, won't they?
what it does
Yep.
mean and what it doesn't mean
Uh-huh.
get open up to the masses, and they start to just create stuff.
That's right.
And a
That's right.
lot of times it's not even remotely accurate, but that's part of the game. Like that's just part of the deal. You have to be ready for that. And I can't
Mm-hmm.
tell you how many times I've worked with executives that are just like throwing their hands in there. They're so frustrated. They're like, people are so upset and frustrated and nervous about all these things. None of that is happening. None of that is part of the deal. But then they fall victim to it, and then they just
Uh-huh.
get mad and frustrated with people, and then they magnify the problem, because then I've seen people, leaders, then start to kind of go after people, and that kind of stuff, and all that does is further erode trust. It doesn't actually help anything. So those three key points that you mentioned, I think, cannot be emphasized enough. And it's not rocket science either.
No,
That's the
no,
thing, is it's
it's not.
rather common sense, but it's really hard to
But
do, and
right.
and it's really hard to do consistently, right?
Exactly. And we have to remember that ambiguity fuels threat perception.
Yeah.
Period. You just be clear. Message again, overly communicate. And then I would say to leaders, when they get caught up in why isn't this working, go after the resistors first. Who are those culprits of stirring the pot and adding to that narrative that might not be quite accurate, and having conversations with those people first to kind of alleviate that spiraling narrative, because that's just a cancer through your organization.
Mm.
Once those people get a hold of that narrative and you haven't communicated with them, you're doomed, right? Execution is a Swiss cheese model, as the old ADCAR pro sci will tell you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, very good. And you mentioned earlier, I think you said 17 years in education,
Yeah.
franchising,
Yep.
kind of different types of skill sets and
Mhm.
experiences, but a lot of overlapping and transferable skills as well. But talk maybe a little bit about how that has helped to inform what you're doing currently and how you approach change, how you approach breaking down resistance, developing growth mindset, etc., with those you work with.
I would say that no matter what industry you're in, no matter what role you're in, when you're leading people, the number one thing that I consider is people want to feel heard, they want to feel seen, they want to feel valued, recognized. I mean that's the foundation of the human condition.
Yeah.
We just want to be seen. And when you can give your employees, your teams a platform to feel safe, to share their opinions, to ask the questions, to have really meaningful conversations, your change initiatives will, I mean, it will double the impact because you're going to be having those continuing conversations where people do feel safe,
Hmm.
feel psychologically safe, right? And it's kind of an overused term now, but it is so critically important when it comes to change initiatives and leading those changes. If you don't have that kind of an environment, chances are you're going to fail every single change initiative, or it's just not going to be as effective as it could be. And then the second thing that I lead with is follow through. A lot of leaders are really good with execution, like thinking it up and then executing. And then the minute we're done, we're like, okay, off to the next thing. And we have to keep going. We have to keep that thing alive and watering the plants so that they continue to flourish and live. And we forget that. We plant, we let it grow, and then we walk away. And leaders are so guilty of that.
We
And
falsely think the roots have already taken and now it's
yes.
self-sustaining and it's just not.
And we do that with our own relationships
Yeah,
too. This
yeah,
is not corporate. This is
yeah.
not right. This is just what we think will happen if we lay a great foundation. It'll just all take care of itself. And so putting that active involvement all the time and building it into your organizational culture, follow through is critical. And also, you know, allowing people to give their input early on, even though you can't take everybody's opinion, even though you can't do everything everybody wants, allowing people to feel like they have some ownership in the decision making process, even at the littlest level, will help the success of your change initiative.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned one of our deepest rooted like human desires is to be seen, right?
That's it.
To be heard. And we don't like to feel railroaded. Even if like a change initiative is going, maybe it's something I've been frustrated with for a long time. They're
Mhm.
finally making some sort of redesign or implementing some new software or something. Things are going to be better. Even if I can recognize that, like I still want to be part of the process. Like
You do.
I still want to
Right.
have my voice heard, even if it's a voice of support. And I think we often forget that, or we just take it for granted, or just like we're busy, and we don't do the hard work. The hard work of change is really the relationships.
It is. It
It's
absolutely
the
is.
trust in the relationships, and that just takes time. Like there's no way around it.
And part of that time, John, I will say, um, the focus of my work comes from years teaching middle school and high school students and then working with adults. We're all the same. We just grew up. Well, some of us grew up. We just got older. and, and we're all the same people. We're all with the same mental processes. And yet if we are not aware of our own behavior and how it impacts others, we're missing a huge piece
Yeah.
in all of this that we're talking about. We love to talk about other people and what they're doing right and wrong. We have to put the onus on ourselves, and we have to take the time to really work on ourselves, inventory what we do well and where we might be falling short. And it's when we do that work, and that's hard. And a lot of people aren't very comfortable with that, especially with leaders who have made it to the top. They're like, why do I need to do that? I've already made it to the top. I know what I'm doing. And we can't have that arrogance, right? We have to be humble and say we don't know everything and we shouldn't know everything. And now, how can we improve ourselves to make change even more successful.
I love it. Well said. Mindy, this has just been a great conversation. I know at the time I need to let you go, but before we wrap things up for today, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, where they can find your book, and then give us the final word for today.
Yeah, thank you so much. They can find me on LinkedIn, of course, Mindy Vail. And then my website is also the same. It's mindyvail.com. And my book, The Effect, is on Amazon. So easy enough to find there. And yeah, absolutely. Reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn. Shoot me a message through my website and we can connect and I would love to chat, see what's going on in everybody's world.
Awesome. Mindy,
And I would
thank you.
say last bit of advice, just be patient with change. Be patient. You never know where it's going to end, and more than not, it's going to be really positive.
I love it. Thank you so much, Mindy. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Mindy can do for you. Check out the book. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.